Edward Andrews was really a popular character actor. He actually had a couple of recurring roles in the series. He was a regular on a comedy that was not successful with Kathleen Nolan called Broadside, and he also appeared on the Doris Day Show as one of her many bosses. But if they had left him as George Baxter on Hazel, hang it up. I don't believe that show would have lasted. I don't believe there's a way in the world it would have made it. And that's just simply because sometimes the chemistry is wrong between the performers. And Don DeFore, the reason he was not available to do the pilot, he had done a pilot which we have shown you here on TV Classics called Daddy-O. It was somewhat like Dobie Gillis. In fact, Sheila James, who played Dobie's erstwhile girl who was always admiring him from afar, Zelda Gilroy, she was a regular, or was going to be a regular on Daddy-O. But the people at ABC that were looking at that decided it just didn't have the ingredients that they thought would make for a regular series. So Don DeFore was free of his commitments, and after the NBC executives and the Screen Gem executives looked at the pilot for Hazel, they decided Edward Andrews was just not the right guy. And if you really stop and think about it, he looked really too old to be Whitney Blake's husband and Harold's father. So here you go. Here's a guy who spent 7 years on Ozzie and Harriet as the next door neighbor, Thorny Thornberry. And he comes over, and it was perfect casting. He and Shirley Booth had the perfect counterpoint to each other. They liked each other personally very much. And it was one of those situations that it just captured lightning in a bottle. And all of a sudden, Hazel takes off. Hazel was actually the replacement for the Tennessee Ernie Ford show that had been a big hit for 5 years on NBC on Thursday nights at 9:30. So NBC felt like, and because Ford wanted to sponsor this show, they felt like it was the perfect match. And if you'll notice in the opening titles of what we're about to show you, there were always a lot of Ford automobiles in the opening title, whether it was a station wagon or any other kind of car that they drove. So here we go. We're going to take you back now to 1964. This is the third season of Hazel. This shows you what a tremendous difference that it was between having Edward Andrews as George Baxter and having Don DeFore as George Baxter. And the difference is just absolutely amazing. So here we go. This episode, and also one more thing I'll tell you. This episode has some people that you are probably very familiar with if you're a classic TV fan. Number one, it has Alice Pierce, who was an Emmy winner for her role as Gladys Kravitz on Bewitched. This was done just before Bewitched premiered in 1964. It also has, you'll recognize Hope Summers, who was the favorite for many, many years as the long-suffering Clara Edwards on The Andy Griffith Show. And then you also look around the cast and you see some more of these interesting character actors and actresses that just popped up in a lot of series. Even if they weren't regulars, you saw them quite a bit. So here we go. Let's take you all the way back now to 1963 and this episode of Hazel.